All right, let's go.
Thank you so much. Please give it up for DJ Longers. My name is Jane McGregor, and I'll be moderating the panel today. This is a discussion about the music industry, specifically looking at DIY, major, and being an indie. Now, if you've just been new to AccessAllAreas, this is our first live event, so please can you give it up for the team? Do you know how happy I am to be off Zoom, to be off any sort of live stream, and to see actual people in front of me? So thank you so much for coming out and spending your evening with us. You won't be disappointed, I promise you. Now, as I said, we're getting up and close and personal with the music industry. We've got an amazing panel here, and they're all experts within their field. They've all got varying experiences. They're all from different parts, majors, indies, and they've got loads of experience between different brands. I'll let them introduce themselves a little bit later. But first, we got any aspiring music artists in the room? Okay. Be proud. Put your hands up proud. You've got a panelist here of amazing music heads, so it's good to know who's about. Make sure you're using this opportunity to network after, get to know people. As I said, you never know who's in the room, who you might even be sitting next to, could be your next collab. You never know. Now, I just want to give you guys a chance just to introduce yourselves, a little bit about what you do and your current role, and whether you sit more major, indie, or DIY. Is that all right? Lovely, right, let's start here.
Okay, I'm Rich Castillo. I'm A&R Director at Atlantic Records UK. I run a team of A&Rs within Atlantic, and I basically oversee the operational sort of side of A&R day to day within Atlantic UK. That's a major, so I'm on the major side. So.
Lovely, thank you.
Hi, my name's Dumi Oburota. I'm the founder of Disturb in London. And now I've just moved over to Orchard, and I'm heading up all the global A&R over at Orchard, which is a major distributor, which is indie, and we facilitate everybody's indie needs. So I'd let you know a bit more.
Hi everyone, I'm Shaurav, Shaurav Silva. I run a company called Two Tone Entertainment, and also a company called Stellar Songs, which is a publishing company. I've worked in both the majors and run an independent now, so I can see it from both sides. I work with major labels closely still, as well as developing artists outside of major labels.
Hi guys, my name's Hanaa Cali. I'm a marketing manager at Virgin Music UK, which is artist and label services company owned by Universal Music. A lot of my career today has been within the indie label sector, but I sit within the artist and label services team who work with independent artists, but we're owned by the major Universal Music.
Hi guys, my name's Lauren Powell. I own my own it's like management and marketing agency called Hidden Courage, and my biggest client that most people know of is a not-for-profit called ILuvLive, and I head up the artist development program doing the marketing there, and we're supported by the Arts Council, so my angle is not-for-profit funded areas, which is quite an interesting angle that I don't think many people kind of look into, the funded aspect, if you want to be independent. But I also have worked for Sony Music as a product manager, and I also used to work at Marathon Artists, which is an indie label, so I've been able to see it from all the different angles.
Hey everybody, my name is Lufadeju. I'm a music lawyer. I'm a legal and business affairs manager at an independent record label called Ninja Tune and Big Dada. I'm also an artist in my spare time. I self-release under the name Abby Janae, so I'm into Afrobeats music and have my own record label called Afrotown Records.
One, two. How you doing? I'm Ben Winter. I am the entrepreneur and outreach manager at AIM, which is the Association of Independent Music. They govern the independent sector and represent the independent sector, which makes up 26%. Interestingly, that 26% doesn't include ADA, Virgin, and Orchard, which comes under the major side, but that doesn't actually pertain to what it means to be independent within the AIM membership. That's something completely different. So it's going to be a very interesting conversation as to what that is. I also have worked at majors and still do business with majors with the talent I represent as well.
As you see, we only pick the best of the best for the panel here tonight. Aren't you a lucky lot? Now, we will do a Q&A with the audience at the end, so if you have got any questions, please note them down, whether it's in your phones or remember them mentally, and I will give the chance to pass this mic out to you guys, all right? Okay, let's get on with this panel then. So, to start, can we just define the differences between doing it yourself, being in an indie, and being in a major? We could have a representative. You don't all have to explain it. Just define, so define the differences between both. Like, what exactly does that mean to be within a major compared to being in an indie compared to being DIY? Just as a top line.
I don't know how to do it as a top line.
Okay. Well,
but basically,
No, I was going to say, basically, doing it yourself, it's about the teams, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think an independent is an independent company, usually a small bunch of people working together to put your records out, and a major is a global network of people at a global company doing it. I'd say that's the difference.
yeah, definitely. And then with that, as you're starting your journey as a new artist, have you got any kind of examples of the first things first that you should be doing, i.e. building your fan base and building, that marketing plan for yourself? Because we're going to start off with DIY and then to the point where you get to right, I think I might be ready to either stay being independent or sign to a major label if the opportunity arises. So we'll start quite at the beginning of the journeys, like some of these might be in our panel today and in our audience.
yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think all of us, we all start from an independent place.
Yes.
Because the music industry is a very closed business. So the first things that the access points are, but when we started, were distribution companies or record stores or, going to HMV and talking to someone or, you know what I mean? But I think we've all started from an independent place. Mm-hmm. But then obviously from being successful independently, you get the interest from the majors, so we've all gone through, everybody here, nobody's going to be approached by a major without doing anything independently on their own. So obviously, first and foremost, you have to make sure your music is good to yourselves, and then obviously amongst your peers. So whoever you see as your quality control or the people that you seek advice from, they're going to have to tell you that it's good. And then there's loads of distro companies now that you guys can go from DistroKid and you can upload things just easy. And then once you upload, you have to use your social platforms, obviously your handles, social media, to talk to your core fan base, and you're building your core fan base, and then those are the people that end up liking your music, and then from there you're just building from there, but we're probably going to get into it. But as the time changes and where we were doing it 10 years ago and where it is now, the platforms that you use to get, the success or the eyeballs on you, like now, there is such thing as an overnight success. Before we would literally be like, there's no such thing as overnight success. Because everybody that, when we came through, you had to do a little bit of a slog or be in a circuit or put your music out, go around, do shows and things like that. Some of the kids now that we're seeing, they probably from their bedroom, and when they're accessing it or uploading it, it's literally tomorrow they can be the biggest thing in the world. Yeah, one freestyle, So, but obviously I don't want to digress. So that's why I want to kind of keep to point. So then we'll get into that,
Can I just add, from AIM's point of view, they define an independent entrepreneur. We don't really refer to them as artists because they're business people. And even if you're self-releasing from your bedroom, you're starting your journey on your entrepreneurial path and as a business. So we refer to them as music entrepreneurs, and we define an independent entrepreneur as somebody that owns at least 50% of their master rights. As long as you own 50% of your master rights, then you're independent. So you could do a JV with a company, you could own it all and just be putting it out for a distro, but as long as you have 50% of your rights, of your master rights, then you're independent.
Okay. Anyone like to add before I move?
I think just to elaborate on what Dumi was saying in terms of getting started and what your original question was about what you need to be doing or where you're building from. You know, making great music that you're happy with and your peers, as Dumi says, are giving you the cosign or the validation on is obviously super important, but then also understanding who you're trying to be as an artist, who your audience is, you know, what your actual mission is as a whole. I think without those things being very clear from the jump, the conversation about even having an independent label investing in you is very, very difficult. I think that there was a time when record companies like Atlantic would invest in people very early just based on talent, and that day is gone. And I think everyone needs to get that very clear in their head that there's too much noise. The access to the resources now to make music is much easier than it ever was. Everyone's making music at home. Everyone knows how to use social media. So the volume of artists trying to do what they're doing has increased massively. So as a result, the filter now that major labels have to have really depend on stats and data, because they can't sign everything and they can't commit to developing 20 acts a year. So the job of developing as an artist, yes, there is a role that an independent or a major label can play, but a lot of it has to come from you. And I think that's the generation that we're in. As Ben says, everyone that should be thinking of themselves as an artist should be thinking of themselves as a brand, as an entrepreneur, and as someone that is going to grow and develop themselves with a team of people that can add value to what they're doing. And it's deciding how you're going to get people to add value in the longer scale of things that we're really here to discuss, I think.
Definitely, really true. And when it comes to building that brand, you're starting out, I said, overnight successes can happen now. Could be from one freestyle, it could be a long slog. How have you seen the best uses of social media to help accelerate that?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch what Shaurav said and understanding who you're delivering your music to. So you need to, as an artist, you need to understand how old are my fans? What streaming services are they using? Are they really, really young? Do they have money? Are they on Spotify? Are they on Apple? Are they streaming your music on YouTube? Go and do your research and understand exactly who your fans are, and you'll have a better understanding of who you are as an artist as well, and really, really hone in and research into what those fans do as well. Go and have a look at what else they like. What else do they like outside of music? How can you tap in to that, to your audience? So really, really research and understand who you're trying to get to, and then that will help your way into marketing. It'll help your way with your socials and how to attract those actual fans.
Just to add on that as well, just to back up Hannah's point, definitely is the groundwork that you have to do. That's definitely the foundation. Me and Hanaa used to actually work together, and that was our first point of call, is looking at the data. Like, we'll look, what's the age range? Who are these people? Where are they living? So you actually know, don't just be kind of shooting in the dark, because that's how you waste your time and resources. You got to kind of know where you're going, what your direction is. And if you don't know the direction, it's like what they were saying, why would a label or anyone come to you? Because you got to know who you want and what you want from that situation.
I think one more thing just I want to say about the social media, which was what you said. One of the big reasons people sign to record labels now is the team of people that are specialists in that area. And I think Rich can expand on that a little bit more when it comes to marketing and what you get when you sign to a record label. But you need to have a basic understanding of how to use these platforms. And as Hanaa said, you know, your audience, who are they? At least have some sort of basic blueprint of who that demographic is. But I think the expansion of that audience is really what people sign to major record labels for nowadays. That's one of the biggest things. Obviously, there's A&R, there's all these other things that you get from being with a major record company too. But the expansion of that audience, that's the bit that everyone's really, really chasing after.
And then with being, as I said, independent at first, everyone's an independent entrepreneur, as you so nicely said, which I quite like that. You are a brand, you are a business. At what point is it when you start getting like that traction and that heat, and you think, am I ready for the next step, to be thinking about whether I want to continue being independent or I want to, you know, start having the intention of maybe signing?
I think Dumi's a good one to answer this, because when you had Tiny popping off at that point where all the attention was there, you had lots of different scenarios, right, where you had the choice of how you could do it.
Yeah, well, if I turned the hands, I wouldn't have done it. No, I'm joking.
Don't say that.
No. do you know what? There's different points at different times. You know what I mean? And I feel, as the guys have said, especially Ben said, that everyone's their own business, they're an entrepreneur. It's like at every time there's like a different. You have to review the business and say, okay, what do I need? Do I understand my business? Do I understand what the value is going to be added with the partners that I go into business with next, or can I do it myself? Can we push it further? It was a bit different when we were coming through, you know. At the time, we had radio, we had the distributor, we had press, but there was a level of the beauty of major labels at the time was that everybody in sync with a click, like with a click on a button, the whole world would be selling your records all at the same point. Yeah, as an independent artist, you couldn't do that, and that was massively the biggest USP, that the manpower, you know, and physical sales, just coordinating your physical sales. I remember I used to give CDs to some distributors to put, and I wouldn't know who sold them and who hasn't, or where, you know, you can't record anything like that. So I think the major labels at that point were very much ahead of everyone in that space. So that was what they were selling. But so where we were, the biggest thing you really wanted to do was have a good fan base at the time, and you wanted to get a certain level of momentum where the industry was talking about you, where the major labels were talking about you. No, it wasn't really, yeah, you could have like your core fan base and you could be a local hero, but you're waiting until the major labels start whispering. That was your equity. But now, obviously, Rich is very much in that business. You know, an artist like a Central C, for instance, or a DBE, when is it time to talk to a major label? Because they're doing it all by themselves. You know what I mean? They've got the access. They've got the access with, they can sell records around the world to a certain degree when they're on Spotify or Apple, and they get the major co-signs from all of those DSPs because they give you, whoever's selling the most records, you're going to get the same level of play as a major label, you know what I mean? So the labels don't have the monopoly on the business as much as they did before. But there is definitely still massive expertise. But what I was just going to say, to just, he can give you the example of where Central is, but as much as everyone says, you know, I'm a businessman and we understand how to, you have to really be obsessed with social media, and you have to understand what your USP is in that space, or how your fans communicate with you. Because what's happening now, what I've found is that everybody's on social media, so people think it's just a given to, oh, you know, when I'm communicating to my fans, they're going to do this. But remember, it's saturated. Your mum's on Instagram, your cousin's on Instagram, I'm on Instagram. And now there's influencers on Instagram that don't sing, they don't do music, but they're influencers. So they're as powerful as before, where when you could sing, you would have influence. But so do you understand? So, and that influencer can now become a singer. You know, so no, it's much more. So, and that influencer is actually a marketing genius. So now there's, as much as there's more access, there is definitely much more expertise. And the people that are winning, you have to give them they're actually the best in the game. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I'm just saying it's a good point. Someone like a KSI, who's sort of started off, I think, through gaming and commentary and stuff like that. Who's now, if you look on Spotify, if you look at his numbers, like it's bigger than pretty much most of the artists in the UK. It's like, and he's got global numbers. He's sitting next to Little Baby and real like serious artists off the back of him being a genius at marketing himself and him knowing exactly just how well to push himself out there himself.
Look at his section and just look at the Brits. Sorry, just when you look at the Brits and you see his session, he's independent. He's got a big medley. That moment in the Brits is a big pop artist. You're the top guy. So if you did, guys, watch the Brits. If you see KSI and how many minutes he had, 4 minutes of, but maybe even 5. 5 minutes of TV, you're in the major league in the Brits. So understand that he's one of the top artists in the UK to have that spot. You know, so that just shows where the game is, you know. Everyone before, we were all in it at the time when we were watching KSI and we weren't taking him serious. So you're just like, well, I've got an MC that can sing better than him or can rap better than him.
I can bar harder, all that.
But it's just the way he's pivoted, I would say, because he said he started off in gaming, then he's moved forward from gaming to music, but he's also taken that audience with him. So those gamers are now supporting his music on top of that sold out O2 tour. And now, obviously, celebrity boxing, I think I've missed that off there. And now he's collaborated with his nemesis, and they've got an energy drink brand. So the pivoting is endless. Would anyone like to add?
Brand building, audience, that, you know, back to those things again. And I think he is a real story of the transition from the old era to the new era. The old era to the new era, because as Dumi said, there was a time when people weren't taking him seriously, and it was really, really difficult for him to get the attention that he wanted. So he found a way to build his audience and find his people. And I think that's something that everyone should take on board, that there isn't one way for anyone. Everyone's got to find their own path, and you've got to look at as many of these examples or models and see where your music slots in and how you can maneuver your way through the system.
I think what you're speaking to is community, and a big thing with me, and I know a big thing for AIM is very much about community and discovering your community, understanding who that community is, what they're about, and why they're engaged with you. And, you know, KSI started out doing FIFA online. You know what I mean? That was his community. And then he grew that into other ventures, but that community has migrated with him. Yeah? You look at, generally, your conversion is really low when it comes to social media. You might have 100,000 followers, 1 million followers, but your conversion is going to be tiny. I think, what is it, like 0.1% or something like that? Something really, really minute, right? So if you've got an artist like KSI that engages his community and knows that that community is going to come with him wherever he goes, that's how he's able to get those numbers. You know, I do a lot of work behind the scenes with a guy called Nux. If you look at his numbers consistently across different platforms, those numbers are because he's built a community. They're not the biggest numbers in the world. It's like 35,000 across all the platforms. But that community, wherever he goes, they migrate with him. And that community move with him because he engages them in a way where it's authentic and he understands what it is that they want, and they understand who he is and what he's about, and they're able to connect. And that's the reason why he's able to take his conversion from what is usually 0.something% way above that into the 10s, 20%, which is crazy. You know what I mean? So if you can identify who your community is as an artist, as an entrepreneur, then it's a lot easier for you to start to develop and build your brand and build your audience and get your numbers.
And just to add to that, be authentic with it. So when you're on your socials and when you're planning your marketing, like for example, someone like KSI, he'd always been a bit of a troll. He'd always been a YouTuber. He was a funny man. He's taken that all the way up into his music career now, and he's kept that with him. For someone like Nux, he's not a troll. He hasn't been doing that, but there's an artist community there, and he's stuck to what he knows. He's stuck to what his fan knows is the music. Then with Nux, it's about the visuals and it's about the music.
But it's the honesty. It's like when he had his exams, he went, I'm not putting out any records till I finish my exams. And his audience went, yeah, we understand that, because we got exams too. Mm-hmm. So it was that honesty, you know what I mean?
Yeah, just keeping that authenticity and just really understanding who you're targeting and keeping true to yourself, and not like with the last couple of years as well. I think you know, when you see Instagram blog posts and reshares and like digital social marketing, young people can sniff from a mile away now what's not authentic. So you have to keep that, and that's really, really important, and it's something I go by across all my marketing campaigns. I've got a bunch of completely different artists on my roster, but every single thing needs to be bespoke when it comes to your socials and marketing, and don't lose that authenticity.
Definitely.
I just want to add on to that really quickly. So I'm currently working with an artist, goes by the name of Geordie, and he's a YouTuber and a rapper. And he YouTubes about football stuff. It's not even music related. And that audience is really, really engaged. And so it's like most artists, if you know kind of the term like promo mode, he's like, oh yeah, we're going to drop a song, we're in promo mode. But he's constantly in promo mode. He's always on YouTube every week. Everyone's seeing him every week. So they invested in him as a person. They invested him into the football side. They just like him as a person, obviously as the character. and then obviously his music's authentic. So he kind of is hitting two birds at the same time. And I think it's a new form of artist that it's like you're investing in him as a person, not just as a rapper. You're interested in what he's into, so you kind of feel like you kind of have a friend online. And it's because it's genuine. The same thing. It's like always authentic. He's just being himself, and I think that's really powerful.
Can you all give some more examples of anybody's, maybe it could be their social media presence, a campaign, something marketing, something that's really stood out for you as an artist, no matter what kind of genre they're under, to give some more examples for our lovely audience to do some research. I'm seeing notepads, I'm seeing people taking notes, I'm seeing laptops. Give them some more examples of some things that you've said, rah, like, I really like that.
I'm going to be a bit biased, but I work on a young bad boy female MC rapper called Queen Mills, and she's from Leicester. She's signed to Virgin with us, and she's like our dream act because she'll do everything. She'll basically do everything. And we recently just took her outside. We just took her out into Shoreditch. She's really, really loud. Her personality is amazing. She was like, yeah, I want to go down to Shoreditch and get drunk and post stickers everywhere. So we literally just took her out to Shoreditch, took a camera out. She just started sticking everyone. She started sticking like stickers on people's backs, just making a whole ton of noise. And then the next day I had loads of people texting like, what's that you and your artist down in Shoreditch? What's her name? What's her name? Like if you're that type of artist that you're a performer and you have that, that vulnerability and you have that access, go outside, do things. So like everything's not just digital anymore. COVID is finished, nearly finished. Go outside, go interact with people. That's my kind of thing with her. And with Queen Mills as well, she doesn't just promote her music. If you go and check out her TikTok, she jumps on so many different waves and so many different trends and jumps on everything outside of music. She interacts with other music artists. She interacts with like all the influencers on TikTok. When you're an artist that has that personality, utilize it outside of your music. Go and have a look at what else is trending on TikTok and your Instagram and start engaging with those different communities as well. But she's a really good example. If you want to check out someone who's really killing it on socials, go check out Mills. But that's just me being biased as well.
I respect it and I respect the honesty. Have we got any more examples?
I think with, again, being biased, I think with Nuts, we went Atlanta, right? And, Atlanta's wild, strip clubs. And we were like, let's go out, let's hit the clubs, let's do our thing. And he was like, no, I'm going to go online, I'm going to game. He does a lot of Twitch gaming. Twitch gaming. Yeah. And he goes on with, like, his fans and
plays along with
plays
them.
Games, you know what I mean, on Twitch, and people are watching and all the rest of it. And he was doing that in Atlanta while we all went to the strip club, and it was like, you really staying in? And he's like, yeah, I'm gaming, fam, I'm gaming. Cool, but that's why he connects, you know what I mean? That's his thing, so.
And when you're at that point where, you're interacting with your audience, you're really solid in, who's listening, or as solid as you can be when you're first starting out, and you've been doing this in a while now, and it's having some success in your numbers across the board. Is it a balance between obviously like funding yourself and that point where you have to think about, okay, what is my next step here? Or is it about, I'm maybe getting so much heat, like what is the best thing to do with it? Is it, I've got to think about my team, like what should be kind of your next thinking step?
I think that's the point where your ambition and goal comes into play. Because there's some people that are very happy running a business the way it's running. And the audience that they're happy with that audience. They're happy tapping into it. They might have 50,000 people that they talk to regularly, and those 50,000 people spend £100 every month, and that is a great business for them. They don't necessarily want the mainstream. If you want the mainstream, if you want a wider audience, it's at that point you've got to decide who the right people are to partner with. Mm-hmm. And the choice on who you partner with really depends on the model that they have. So record labels really have the ability to replicate success. That's what you're really signing to someone for. They have a model, they have a formula that works for certain types of artists, and either your artistry fits into that mold or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, that's when the likes of Virgin or Orchard or any of the distribution services that are ADA, of course, that are all there, that are able to give you the ability to continue your model the way that you're running it, but with maybe added resource from a financial perspective or a digital team or things that can expand on it slightly, but without you necessarily having to go all out and try and be commercial. Because there is an expectation when you sign to a major record label that Rich will tell you about, that you are going to be commercially successful. They are not signing you for you to continue at the same level that you're operating at that point. So that's the decision that you really have to make.
And when you're kind of making those decisions, as I said, you're building this team around you. Who should you kind of be consulting as well as yourself? Like, who are the key people that you should kind of have in place or start to think about having in place?
Join AIM and download I'm being serious, and download the how to get started handbook, because that gives you like so much information on all of this, like how to find your distributor, how to find your manager, how to find the lawyer, how to find PR, all that stuff. So, first thing you should do is that, and then you can, I know Rich was about to go, but yeah.
No, that's fine. You're right. He's absolutely right.
Yeah, because a lot of people start with friends at first, you know what I mean? And sometimes that can be messy, and sometimes it can be greatness.
It can be both. It just depends on your friends, whether they're actually capable or not.
Definitely. Now we're going to break it down into indie first, and then we're going to go into the major side. But there might be times where they cross over, and times where, you feel free to contribute at any point. So, indies now. What are two of the best things, for example, with being with an indie or being an independent artist?
Yeah, I would say being an independent, it's good that you get to, have control over what you release, creative control, which is very important. And also, you have control in the studio with which producers you want to work with and all of that. And I feel like being DIY as well, there are lots of opportunities, like people mentioned before, to release your music, with like DistroKid or Ditto or whatever. It makes things really easy. And it gives you an introduction to sort of manage things by yourself. Like, for example, if you're DIY, you have to be aware that you have to register all your, copyrights. That's, the music, the lyrics, the sound recording. So you have to register it with PRS and PPL. And that sort of holds you accountable that, you're doing admin. Because what comes up is that sometimes artists don't register, stuff, and then years later it's like they're missing out on like so much royalties, and then then looking for people like me, like lawyers, to fix it. And it's crazy because sometimes there might be registrations there, or sometimes there might not, and then they can't backdate the royalties, and then it's such a shame. So yeah, that's what I would say.
I think it's really important to understand that being independent doesn't mean like being small. That's the first thing. You got companies like Beggars who make up like 3% of the market, and they make hundreds of millions a year. That's where XL Records is, where Dizzy and Adele were signed. You know what I mean? So it doesn't necessarily mean small. I think that's the first thing to understand and comprehend, so that when you're making these decisions, you're not looking and going, if I go independent, then I'm small. Doesn't necessarily mean small, just means different. And to be fair, some of the deals at independents are exactly the same as majors. At some independent record labels, they're exactly the same as majors. But then there's others where there's a lot more flexibility. There's, I'm aware of companies where they've actually partnered with the artist, and the company has a share of the artist business. So the artist has set themselves up as a limited company, and then the company has actually got a share of that company, and they do it together, which is a completely different model. So I think if you're independent, there's a lot more flexibility in terms of the types of deals you can do, the way that you do business. There's a lot of opportunity to move quickly. Major labels, if you imagine them being massive cruise liners in the middle of an ocean, it's slower for them to turn because of the size of the company and because of all the bureaucracy that exists within the company. So there might be something that one of these guys is like, yo, this is the next thing, we need to jump on that now. And because of the bureaucracy, they might not be able to do it, even though the team that you're working with as an artist wants to do that particular thing, they can't necessarily do it. Whereas at an independent, because there's there's so few people there. It's a much smaller company. It's a much more agile company. It's more like a speedboat where you can just quickly turn, change direction again if that's not working. So those are the kind of real benefits, I guess, of independent versus major. It's agility, it's flexibility of the deal, flexibility of marketing, and I guess also being a lot closer to the team, because you can effectively almost always have a relationship with the whole flipping company at an independent on a lot of occasions, whereas at a major you might not have that unless you are a successful artist where you know everyone from the CEO down. You know what I mean? You might just know the team that's working on your project. So I think that's probably the pros and the cons. But, you know, they are very similar.
Just to add on that, I actually personally experienced similar stuff like that from a marketing manager perspective. So when I've been in an indie label, in terms of like DSP, so your Spotify's, your Apple Music, etc. Sometimes they have initiatives that they want you to be a part of. It's like they might do an initiative where they're going to support a group of new artists that are about to break through, and they will actually do some sort of social content around it or be a part of a playlist. And that's amazing. Obviously, it's a big opportunity and you want to be a part of it. But when you're at a major, I had an example where one of those DSPs came to us to work with the artists. And then as soon as we were about to kind of, we're going to do some really great promo for the single and stuff. And then the label was just like, no, you can't do it. There's not an agreement with this company. So that just stopped it right there and then. And that was it. Opportunity was off the table and that's out of my control. And as from a market perspective, it's difficult because I've got to be like, cool, okay, what's next? And we have to refigure it out. Whereas if it was independent, like we can just talk to them and we can figure out, do it on our own. We can do it ourselves, deliver that content and keep it moving, and then move on to another company. And we're not having to think about who we align ourselves with too much. There's still a little bit of that. At the end of the day, music is a business, and that's another thing that people always forget. Is music industry is a business. Like these labels, they're corporate companies. There's corporations. There's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of things taken into consideration. But one of the benefits I would definitely say in terms of majors, but I know I'm kind of jumping the gun, is obviously the financial side at times as well. But so I think one thing I would say as an artist, especially as a new artist, is that there's not one or right way of doing it. It depends on what you want, what you're looking for, and who you want to align yourself with. Is the money more important? Is the flexibility more important? There's many factors to take into consideration.
Yeah, just adding to that as well, as Lauren said, that there's a lot of choice out there now, and with artist services companies over the last few years being a really, really big thing, deals are a lot more flexible. There are a lot more opportunities to work very, very close and in tandem. For example, what I do at Virgin, I have a bunch of, so I work with Rimsey. For example, someone like Rimsey, I talk to him every single day. Every single morning, the guy messages me at like 7 a.m. like, what we doing? I'm going to drop out this playlist. Like, that's the kind of, there's a lot of flexibility, and there's within artist service companies like that and within independent record labels, you get to work very, very closely with your team. And so someone like Rimsey, who I've got direct contact with him, we talk every day. We're talking about marketing every day. He's really, really involved in his marketing. But then there's another artist, someone like Rema, that I work on, who is a bit far away. He's not based over here. A lot of the stuff goes through his team. It really, really depends. But a lot of these deals are becoming a lot more flexible now, and you're getting the opportunity to sit direct with your team and make a decision together, whether that's the cost of things, what specific marketing that is. But a lot of what we do is down to the T. We decide that together, and it's not we're a label, we're going to do this, you don't have a say. It's a very, very like a working in tandem situation. And that's kind of become very, very prevalent over the last few years as well.
And how would you say that the indie sector has continued to kind of thrive and adapt, taking all of that into consideration?
I think what's happened with independent music now is that people have figured out their models, right? And I think it's what I was talking about before. There's, KSI is a good example, Central C, Georgia Smith, there's artists now that have figured out how they are going to maintain and grow their audiences. So it's definitely thriving. I think that there's now a really good argument for the conversations between really successful independent artists and major labels to evolve the nature of their deals. And I think that's what's happening now. I think that's what's happened with KSI, isn't it? With the kind of sort of forward-thinking way of working together, because he's already successful. He's had a #1 album. you know, he's got a massive fan base, but he is still in a position where he sees the benefit globally of doing a deal with someone like you guys.
Yes.
And when you're independent, oh, do you want to add?
Sorry. I think why someone like KSI who's been independent for so long, would go off and do a bigger deal is for global ambition. I think obviously he's massive and he's done a lot of what he thinks he can do here. Yeah. On a global level, there's still a lot more to be done. And I think part of the reason why he would sort of entertain a bigger situation is because of his ambition and his sort of want and need to sort of further himself and be better than he is. So for him and other people, like you said, ambition is varied, isn't it? Some people want to be the best in the UK, some want to do Europe, some want to do the world. And I think when you're talking about the world, I think majors deliver global campaigns in a succinct, collective way. I would say better, but more successfully in the past than indies have.
But also, just to follow up on that, what he's doing in America already with the collaborations that he's already created gives you guys something to work off of, right? And
absolutely. We have confidence, so we're able to put more risk into it because we feel like we can put him next to global stars and we'll get an amazing return and we're going to be a part of an amazing, successful campaign and demonstrate to the world why we do our job really well.
So would you say that going global is a kind of a big tipping point moving away from independence?
No way.
No.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
It's not.
Speak your truth.
The fact is, for instance, the biggest artist in the world is called Bad Bunny, one of the biggest artists in the world, and he's signed to Orchard. And one of the biggest groups that were in the world were BTS, and BTS was signed to Orchard too, and their business has been bought by Universal. So I definitely have to be honest. I've been on both sides. I've like the times when I've been in major labels, I've licensed records to major labels, and I've been fortunate enough to have global priorities in major labels. So I understand the impact that a major has when they spend money. But the fact is now, in this day and age, it is always, as we've said before, it's about stats. Everybody's looking at statistics, and everybody's in the game, and it depends on how good you are. So if there's a demand, the major will spend the same money as the indie, because we all want the same thing, you know. And then it's all dependent on the act and what their ambition is and what they're willing to risk. Because the fact is, we're only giving people the money that we think we're going to get back.
And again, it comes...
You know what I mean? So when we talk about majors, for instance, global success, I don't know if you guys remember Macklemore.
Yeah.
Macklemore was an independent artist, but obviously he went through label services with Warner. Like, he was one of the main guys that started having global success and being independent. So the thing is, when you have a hit, we're all in a race for hits, and we're in a race for big success, and so everybody can do the same job. It all depends on how advanced your team is. Because let's say a Bad Bunny, for instance, he will have his own in-house marketing person, maybe your own digital person, a great manager, great legal team, but he's generating he's making millions. So a major label, what are they really gonna add to his business, you know? But then if I'm Joe Bloggs from down the road, and I've never experienced the music game again, like TikTok, I've put up a record on TikTok and it's become a global hit, I don't know what to do. So if no one around me informed, or they don't have any information, I'm going to think a major label is the place where I should be. And to be honest with you, there's a time and place for everything. I feel that there are things that major labels do exceedingly better than distributors. Yeah. But then I will honestly say here, I don't think major labels are that great in the UK for black music, to be honest with you. When we say that they repeat success, they don't know how to. So the thing is, the kids, you guys, and in the future, your scene creates the buzz, and then we just put fuel on it as a major, you know what I mean? So the difference between a major and a independent is that the measure of success is different between an indie and the distributor and a major label. Because if I sign for instance, and we can be quite honest here, if I sign an act and Rich signs an act, what I would need from the act could be completely different to them what he wants. I could let them put out 2 like organic records because I know that it's key for their fans, right? Because it's your money. I'm in business with you, so whatever you want to spend is your money, you know. But his money is not his. So everyone's trying to make the money back. You know what I mean? So it's all about timing. So they may want to get the hit straight away, but Rich. But sometimes you may not. No. And sometimes you may not. But for instance, that's true and not true. But there's always going to be a point. Yeah, I agree. There will be a point when it doesn't make business sense. You know what I mean? And business sense is always relative. And we, obviously, with the red tape and hierarchy of systems, you know, it depends on how far up your A&R is. It depends on how big your marketing person. It depends.
How big your events was.
Yeah.
How big a deal was when you first started.
Yeah, but when we talk about money, I'm seeing a lot of deals that people are spending where our deals are quite similar, but it all depends on what the person believes they can get out of the major label and what they can get out of a distributor.
And why? I think the other thing is, and why? You know what I mean? It's like, why do you want to sign to a major? Why do you want to stay independent? The why is a massive, massive part of this. It's like, you know, you're probably going to get more money out of a major up front, right? But then you're going to have to pay more tax on that. So depending on what it is, like what is your why? Why are you in this? What are you trying to achieve? What's your goal? Is it to get a big bag? Then if it's to get the big bag, it might be to go with the major. You know what I mean? If it's something else, it might be independent, or it might be to go with the major to achieve that goal in a faster time period because, as they've already mentioned, they know how to replicate success. So it kind of comes down to your why, really and truly.
I think the why depends on your circumstances too, and I think this is something that's really important, that not everyone's in the same position, not in the same situation, and so there's a reason why some people take major record deals earlier in their career than they should in some scenarios. I think what Dumi's saying about it being essentially the same job when you've got an artist that's blowing up is 100% true. Bad Bunny's an amazing example. But the resource that Bad Bunny had built up through live, through his own streaming income and everything that he had allowed him to build a team that were the best at what they do in their particular audience and in their field. If you are not in a position where you have the resource, the skill set, the understanding of the game to do that, it makes a lot more sense to do a deal with a record label where you have a team of experts that you can tap into. But that all really depends on your own desires and how you want to grow your business. Bad Bunny's business is something that he has wanted to keep independent from day one.
And not to divert, but you have to be the best. I know everyone, like music is like football. You know, when you watch footballers, we all know sports, you're elite, you're the best. So no one thinks they can be a Premiership football player. Exactly, no, but you won't even think you're capable of being a professional football player. It's as much as you can't be a professional musician if you're not one of the best. It's a fact. It's not. So sometimes we're all better off. We need more people behind the scenes. We need to see when we're talking about repeating success and Ben, yeah? It's about data. We need people that are great marketeers. We need people that understand how to create the same success, or if we give them a record, they're going to guarantee that this amount of people are going to listen to it, because there's so much demand and so much music and things are moving so much, no one has cracked the system yet. There is a kid called that's in Sony with Humans. What's it? Robots. Robots and Humans. He's a kid that literally. Look, he would tell you.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so there's this guy at Sony who created a whitelist, which sort of it basically watches all of social media and it looks for songs or acts that sort of pop their head up. That he's built an algorithm that can predict. I think they found coffee through that, but he's got an algorithm that they use at Sony which is sort of IP to Sony, but they're able to sort of look at records and analyze audio and videos or anything that pops up on the internet in a way that no one else can. I say no one else, but I think Warner now have got a really good tool that we've developed. You rewind that bit. It's so universal, it's just in case.
Right, so everyone's getting thrown under the bus today.
No, but it's got this system in place, and it's sort of, I think he was the first one to really do it, where actually they spotted something super early based on the data they had, chased it, and it turned into something tangible, sort of thing.
So what? Just going back to my point, I was just saying, because a lot of us, we have had desires to be artists. Lots of us on this panel, we may have sang, we may have wrote, we may have tried to do things. No, on a level, like, it's true. You know what I mean? No, it's true. You know what I mean? So what I'm basically saying is the passion, you're in the room. Whenever I do these panels, I have to tell you, your passion got you here, and you've got a love for music, but you might not be good enough, right? But that doesn't mean you're not good enough to be an exec or be someone behind the scenes or somebody that can help someone be as good as you want to be. You know what I mean? I couldn't MC as good as Tiny, but I knew how to direct him, and he's successful, and now I'm here. So what I'm basically saying is that it's hard to be an artist, and the chances are, if there's 2 artists in this room, a massive good. It's like a lottery, you know what I mean? So, but there's probably more of a chance of us probably having 25% employees.
Yeah,
a
record label or a manager or something that is going to help someone on their journey to success. I think I preach this a lot as well. I feel like obviously being in front of camera is one thing, but there's an army of us are behind it that are making the thing in front of camera look great. And I think there are so many opportunities. We're constantly looking for great people, but I think people overlook that bit and don't see it as important. I think you can have a great career, you can holiday, house, all that sort of stuff. You can do it from behind the scenes as well. So I'd encourage people that have got. I was an artist. I was in a band at the start. I got signed, got dropped before the song came out. So that's the rule. But I'm here today, and I love my job, and I love what I do, and I've got no regrets. And that was just my calling. But yeah, I wouldn't get bogged down with that.
Sorry, I just wanted to touch on the A&R bits we were talking about earlier and what Ben said. If you're trying to go to a major label and you want a bag and it's the money that you want, like we're in a time of TikTok where even though it's easy to cut through, it's also very hard to cut through because there's so much going on, right? And as an artist, once you start getting that momentum and you start getting that buzz from the industry, or there's music execs like sniffing around you, from a music perspective, if you have a TikTok single and what you're trying to do is just make money and you want that bag and you want to go sign that big deal, then fine. If you're wanting to really develop as an artist and artist development, like I think over the last few years, I think the roles of an A&R, and I know the guys can speak on this a little bit more, has changed. Things are being signed in a different way. And you need to understand as an artist, go and meet those people. Like if you get to that point where there's momentum, there's buzz around you, go and sit with the A&R before, and go and sit with that team and figure it out. Like, is this A&R actually going to help me develop my music? Are they going to sit in the studio with me? Are they going to go and hook me up with the right songwriters, the right producers? Or am I going to get a bag and I want to sign this deal because I want to make a lot of money off this one song that I did? Like there's a confusing line between kind of development acts now at the moment and wanting to sign something because it's a hit.
I think understanding what getting the bag is really important here as well, because I think it's a term that people use a lot, right? And I don't think there's any artist in any scenario that doesn't want to have a long career. I don't think anyone gets in it just thinking, let me just get the bag. There's some people that get in it that have very difficult, circumstances, which mean that when a big amount of money is offered, it's very difficult for them to turn it down. But on the whole, they want to have a long career. The challenge usually comes in them understanding how to really build and develop that, right? And the ideology that if you go to a record label, they're going to do that for you is one that has existed for a long time, and we're now getting to a point where that is really starting to change. I think your point about A&R and what people want or what people need, that is really also down to you. You might not want someone to put the sessions together for you. You've got to decide what it is you want from your partners before you go and partner with someone.
There's so much to consider. It also feels like stocks and shares a bit. And then, so say if I'm signed and I'm now in one of these major labels, for example, there's a lot of obviously big artists that are on these rosters. Is it a case of cutting through? Is it a case of, these massive stars like your Bad Bunnies are always going to kind of be at the top for a period of time? Is it that you're looking at them to kind of, drive what you're doing, or is it completely separate?
I was just going to say, I think one thing that artists have to keep in mind as well is when you do sign and you do get into the label, that's when a lot of artists take their foot off the gas. And I'm like, that is what you do. It's the opposite of what you do. Like, they think, oh, I'm in a label, I can chill. Yeah. And you're like, no, this is when the work starts. Because I've been in that situation before, and it's like, they kind of come and sit down with the A&R, myself, like a marketing person, like, okay, so what are you going to do for me? And they just feel like the work's just going to happen. Yeah. And it's like super frustrating, because it's like, we brought you here because you got art, you got great music. That's what got you in here in the first place. And then they just feel like, just can you give me some money so I can spend on Instagram? Like, it doesn't work like that. So I think first and foremost, come in, then obviously see who your team is, evaluate your situation, be grateful for that, and then say, okay, cool, now I want to step it up a level, and then work with those people to step it up. I think that's the best thing. That's the first point of call for sure.
Yeah, sometimes the whole chase of being courted and being spoken to, and everyone, like everyone telling you that you're the best, and the dinners and all of that. So by the time you've even walked through the building, you're like, I'm gonna do it. I'm the best. Look at me. I'm the star. You know what I mean? And you haven't even done anything. But it's just, it's like, I'm not saying this. Somebody said something to me about major labels and just distributors, major labels. We're all in the same. We're all owned by the same people anyway. So, do you know what I mean? But the major labels like a graveyard. There's more dead people in the back than there are people working. Do you know what I mean? There's so much failed artists. We drop acts. People don't understand the reason why some things don't work. It's third parties. Sometimes people you get the check or you get the bag, and the bag goes to your head. Sometimes you get the money, or you don't get the right money, and you don't have the right amount of money to invest in your career. You know what I mean? So it's a hard business. There's no and it's only become harder because before, right? Let's say when it was physical sales and there was HMV and all of that, there was more of a hobby into going to the record store and buying music, and it's more like art, you know what I mean? I could go, this is Horniman's museum, but I could like a dinosaur thing, and I could like a piece of African art, and a few people would like the African art, and some people would like the dinosaur, you know what I mean? But that's their thing, and I'm not really trying to get into your, and so you would be like, okay, cool, I sell records to the people who like dinosaurs, you know what I mean? And the person that buys the records off of you will be excited because they're enthusiasts in that space, and so you've got your own business. Here, you're uploading onto a platform that is faceless, no people.
30,000 new releases a week, something like that.
That's insane. Did you say 35,000 new releases a week?
30,000 every week, yeah? It's more, yeah. Yeah, 40 a day. It's like something like that. I think it's 40 a day or something like that. That's what. But you can obviously see that. So this is and everyone says you put the record out, and it's if the people say yes. It's sometimes if the people even see it, and then okay, the good thing. This is what I want to say to you, and this is a toot to you guys, yeah. A major record label, yeah. Like if you're in a warehouse, yeah, and you tell your fans, okay, this is a big warehouse full of records, yeah, and on one day, you can tell your fans, I'm in the front of the warehouse, yeah? As an independent artist, you'll be telling them sometimes, it's like IKEA. I'm like a couple rows down, destination there, you can go and find. Do you understand what I mean? And then the people, we go and find our bits in IKEA though, when you really want the piece, but sometimes it will be convenient to just walk into the warehouse and just see it in front of you. That's the thing that a major label can do for you. But it's only a small percentage of people that they do that for. A lie.
I'm not going to deny that.
Okay.
But to get to the front of the warehouse, you have to do the work that allows them to sell you into the front of the warehouse in the first place. So that still revolves back to the same thing.
So it is replication, but it's not necessarily direct replication. Like, you're not looking at the top and thinking, right, eventually I'm going to be able to do this. It's all very dependent and down to you.
100%.
Just a small, tiny piece of advice as well, just going off of like how much music is actually released on streaming platforms per day, per week. If you're a small independent artist, don't release your music on a Friday. You're competing with far too many. Even we talk about it within labels and within our own roster as well. We're like, do we need to release on a Friday? But as a small independent act, you're in too much competition. Even when you're pitching, if you guys know how to pitch and you guys know how to use like the DSP tools, and if you're lucky enough to have contact with people at DSPs as well, don't release it on a Friday, because everyone, their mom, their dad, their sister, everyone's releasing on a Thursday night and a Friday night. Go midweek, go Wednesday. Try and avoid that mess and avoid all of that release day madness. But yeah, just small piece of Friday advice. Don't release on a Friday.
Yeah, because you see New Music Friday and that's all you see. You're not thinking about the other days in the week, are you?
No, it's true. And another thing I was going to say as well that kind of reminds me was the Koji Radical campaign that he did recently. He signed to a major, but he was an example of not taking his foot off the gas. He wanted that number 10. He did a whole campaign about, I'm going to hit top 10, I'm going to hit top 10. And I think everyone got behind him because he's been going on for years as an independent artist, as a major artist. He's been pushing. And he's, if you want to kind of quote unquote niche, you know, he's very unapologetically a black man talking about his experiences. And he went out there and he went and sold the physicals because he knew about all that noise. He went and sold the vinyls and everyone invested. He sold it to me. I got the vinyl. I was ready to back it because he was ready to really put his first foot forward. And as well as obviously the label invested in like digital spend and all the other stuff to back that campaign. So it was a mixture of the organic and a mixture of the money. So I think people should keep that in mind, just like how are you going to push yourself in the front, not just with your major team, but with yourself. Like, what are you going to do? Are you invested in it? Are you going to put yourself in the forefront?
There's always a lot of talk about DSP support and getting your stuff pitched, and a lot of people seem to think that when you sign to a major, that's the big thing that they're going to add to the thing. But that is really not helpful if you don't have what they call off-platform, which is your own organic audience that are going to stream the audience anyway. You've got to remember that these streaming companies, they're looking for new people to sign up and subscribe to their platforms. So they want to promote people that are going to bring people to their platform. They are not there to help you. They are a business.
It's that crossover that we mentioned earlier, and also that integrity that all of you mentioned with your presence and what you're doing, like going out there and making sure you're selling your own physicals. It's got to stand for something. Now let's talk about when it comes to leaving, because some artists chop and change, going from independent to major, major to independent. Can you guys share any like little bits on kind of the process of that, and maybe some thoughts as to maybe why that happens?
I mean, there's two different sides to it, right? We've talked about what happens when you start as an independent and you go into becoming a major act and why the reasons are, but there's also the artists that have done 2 or 3 albums on their major deals and then are at a point in their career where they've got an audience, they know who that audience is, they know how to market to them, they want to retain a bigger share of the profits because they have their own process and they have their own team. So there's no reason for them to give up that share to the major company if they're not adding the value that they need them to add to justify that amount. So I think there's a few different examples. I think there's people that really are happy with the level that they're at, and there's people that really want to go to another place, which is why they do deals. But there's also people that have got to that place and gone, well, actually, I'm happy working with this audience that I have here. So I think it depends.
I think again, you know, you got to remember that being on independent doesn't mean less than being on a major. I don't mind messing with either. Money's money to me, but like it doesn't mean less than. So some people leave, like Shaurav said, because they want a bigger piece of the pie. They don't have to sell as much records to make as much money, to make more money. Sorry. So you could actually sell less, stream less, whatever you want to call it these days, right? But because you're owning that, you're going to see more income coming your way. So that might make you go, actually, I'd rather be independent. Or you might just go, you know what, I don't like how the label's dealing with me. I don't like the marketing strategy they're doing. I don't like the release schedules that they've given me. I want to do it myself because I know who I am. I know what I want to do. I know how to do it. And there's loads of examples of artists that leave a major and have gone on being super successful. You know what I mean? As an independent. Huh? What do you mean who? Russ is an example.
So he's done more without
Russ has done, not English Russ, US Russ.
Oh, okay,
done way more without the major.
Was he on the major in the first place?
He started independent, then he went to a major, then he went independent again. Did a lot more without the major. Nux is an example in the UK. Done a lot more after he got dropped by Island. So, you know, you can do a lot outside if you want to. It's just about the model and what you're thinking about.
And what led you to getting dropped? Can I just ask that?
That's not for me to talk about. You'd have to talk to his management.
Richard needs a bit. No, because what Rich is basically saying, what act is because he's more to. There's a cycle in which artists, just how it's a business, isn't it? So there's a cycle in which artists are allowed to be released from major deals. Because if you're making money, the chances of you being able to leave your deal is slim, and trying to leave your deal is slim. That's the business, isn't it? They're not going to let you go if you're making a certain amount of money. So at a point, majority of the time when you are released from a major, how the business is built, they don't want egg on their face. They want you to leave and be better than them, because it would basically make them look like they don't know what they're doing. So the powers of a major label is the fact that when they do release you, you should be at a point where you're at the lowest point. But, right? But that's where the business is. But what's changing? No, I'm gonna get you there. But what's happening now? Because distributors and artist services, when the majors started doing artist services, really, it was for like heritage acts, like old acts, like let's say Oasis came and they're out of a deal, and then Liam wants to do a deal, and he's like, listen, I've got a couple million. I don't want the millions anymore. All I need is your service. So you lot just put out my record and I'll be on a distribution deal. And sometimes, and what was happening, some of their records were going #1 and they were booming and they're making more money. And then so it started a different cycle. So the chances are financially, you might be in a better position. But in terms of your visibility, majority of the time, you won't have as much visibility, but financially you might be better. In a sense.
Yeah, 100%,
you know
100% agree with that. And just to be clear, like sometimes when you leave a label, it might not be because you dropped. It might just be because your relationship with that label isn't great anymore. You know what I mean? And you're having discord about your releases or, you know, strategy or whatever it is, the amount that you're allowed to release, whatever it might be. And that creates the problem where you go, actually, you know what, maybe it's better if we just part company.
Over at Orchard, sorry, I'm looking at loads of acts that have been dropped or they've had a bit of a problem with their label or people, because sometimes it's an understanding of they just creatively, they weren't aligned. Sometimes, you know, as you said about the major labels, we were saying this about when people get signed, they believe that they're just going to make it or they stop working. You can't stop working because a major label is signing about 5 other people. As soon as they've signed your deal, they're signing 5. They're never going to go, because we've got this person, we shouldn't sign that person. No, they're signing your friend. So, no, it's true though. Like, I've done it too, you know what I mean? I'm not, you know, sometimes I'm just saying, because I've worked in the capacity to work for a major and trying to sign things. So sometimes you're just on it. So the A&R process goes out of the way, you're just signing, innit? You know what I mean? So
volume is an important thing actually to highlight, because the volume of which major record labels sign is based on market share, and Rich can go into this more if he wants to, but market share is a big reason why a lot of the deals are overpriced or why people overpay, and people don't actually understand that when their record gets signed for more money than it actually is really worth, is because the record companies are trying to acquire market share with something that is looking like it's going to chart. So they're front loading the thing to make sure that they look good within their business to their shareholders and the people that they work for, to say, look, we've got 5 records in the top 10. As a result, they get paid out more from Spotify or whoever else.
Exactly, so it's just kept to the streaming. The streaming is based on a market share percentage and not necessarily on the individual sales.
So your project could be in deficit by 200k, which is why you're being let go by the record label. But on the face of it, it's been a success for the A&R because he's had a top 10 hit. So you're not leaving the label because
A&R gets another job.
Yeah, the A&R gets another job. Everyone's happy, but the reality is that the artist then is not in a place where they don't have a fan base or they don't have an audience. It's just the deal hasn't made sense financially, which is where label services could come in and say, actually, you've already done a great job here. The last record might be in deficit, but we think we can do 4 or 5 more singles that are going to be in profit, and better still, you're going to be getting 80% of your income rather than 22% or whatever it was.
I've got about 2 more questions before I open up the Q&A, so please have your questions ready. When you leave your deal, do you get your rights back to your music?
It depends on what you negotiated when you've done your deal.
Initially,
so
yeah.
Every deal is different. So the lawyers, I'm sure a lawyer here can speak to that.
About to say, Abby.
Yeah, pass it down. Yeah.
Well, it depends on, you know, what kind of deal you sign and what you negotiated and you know, whether you negotiated to get your rights back at the end of the deal, or, you know, some deals you have to recoup and pay an additional percentage, whether it's 120% or 150%. To recoup before your rights are reverted. So it just depends on what you've negotiated. Obviously, with the independent indie, it's more likely you're able to get your rights back. Obviously, I've not worked for a major label, so, you know, things are a bit different there. I don't know if you guys could tell us about the major label.
I'm in the middle of a negotiation at the moment, actually, and it's a really interesting thing. So the artist has some momentum, not massive momentum, but some. And the conversation about getting the masters back was the hardest point to get through. It is Sony, and Sony were very persistent on saying that we want the rights forever. And that wasn't forever in the old-fashioned term of lifetime of copyright. It's a 10-year license, but we want the ability to relicense unlimited, which is basically a lifetime of copyright deal. And my conversation with the lawyer was, my artist wants their masters back before they're 50. The reason why they want their masters back before they're 50 is they want to be able to sell that asset at some point. And that's a conversation that, as an artist, you need to have with your lawyer, and you need to really understand, because the longer you give your product to a major for, the harder they're going to work, because they've got a longer period of time to exploit it. However, if you're in a position where you're coming into a deal with momentum, you are in a stronger position to negotiate that term down.
And doing that, once you own all of the rights back to your music, I'm seeing like people like Snoop and Nas turn them into NFTs now. So is it you have full control to do with them as you wish?
Sometimes, sorry, again, it's like you still have to go. See, everyone talks about masters, yeah? Your masters have to have value.
Yep.
So it costs to make your masters have value.
Yep.
So before your masters have value, somebody has spent, or you have spent a lot of money to make your masters have value, yeah? So having your masters with no value doesn't mean nothing, right? Once, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people talk about masters, and masters of what, you know? So, but if you see like your masters now, once you do get your masters back, majority of the time you're going to sell them back to the same person, because you don't know how to exploit your masters. And they're one thing the major labels have done, they're the masters at what they can repeat, and they do amazing, is exploiting catalog. They're the best.
I've just done a 2-day course on, literally we just did a big course on global catalog recently, and it's mad. The revenue it generates and the sort of techniques they use to sort of make your catalogue buoyant again and have people re-engage, and the sort of the creative, there's whole departments of labels all around the world that just do catalogue. And the definition of catalogue within Warner is 18 months. And I think at Universal it's 2 years. But that's just literally, if you could have released your last album, gone on tour for a year and come back, and your stuff's catalogue already. And it just goes into another section of the business, generates loads of income, which is why this sort of argument is really sort of a hard one.
And just to add to what Dumi was saying, like I had a conversation with an artist recently who was saying exactly that, like, oh, well, no, I want to own my masters and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but do you know how to exploit those masters? And he looked at me blank, like, I don't even know what that means. You know what I mean? So this whole, I have this conversation all the time, this owning my masters is cool, but if you're gonna have that conversation, educate yourself on what that actually means. what a master is, what it means, how you exploit it. Otherwise, you're just talking about something that you've heard somebody else say and you think sounds cool, and you actually look like an idiot to people that know.
Yeah, I can just touch on that quickly with exploiting rights. There's something called synchronization. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. We haven't really touched on it. But there is loads of opportunities in sync, exploiting those masters and publishing and getting income when your music is in TV shows, games, films. And, things like these are picking up. And if you join AIM, you actually get a sync guide, which is incredible, and you get to connect with lots of music supervisors all around the world and everything like that, and you get to understand how you can get your music in Netflix or Amazon Prime Video and all these different shows that you watch, and it's pretty simple, and a lot of artists are getting a lot of money from sync, especially on the indie side, working at Ninja Tune, Big Dada. The artists that we work with are making millions on sync, and they're okay with that. They may not be getting the highest of streams, but the sync world is kind of different, and they're living off of that. They don't care about being popular. We deal a lot with production music as well, and there's some artists that are more concerned with maybe producing music and being under the scenes. We have a lot of producers we work with as well that are just concerned about making that music. So, if you're interested in those opportunities, Big Dada is definitely looking to, hear new music. So.
Just to add on sync as well, it might be just a little bit overlooked, but Catalog exists, and Catalog exists for you to go and speak to music supervisors and get your music synced as well. But there are opportunities sometimes, depending on how small. I work with an artist called Roro at the moment, and Apple actually reached out direct to specifically make a track for that sync. So it's not only a case of it has to be music that's already out that you need to go pitch with music supervisors. There are opportunities sometimes where you can specifically work with that music supervisor and work with that team to create a bespoke sync, which you earn a lot of money from, but just thought I'd add that as well.
Just back to the master rights, one of the reasons people want master rights, and important what Ben said, you've got to know why you want them. Yes, you can sell them later on, but with things like syncs, you're going to get paid directly. When a record gets synced for Netflix, whatever, it goes directly to the record label if they own the master. But if you are the master rights holder, that one sync could be more money than you've earned in the whole last year of royalties. So there are lots of reasons why people want their masters back, but in terms of exploiting, as these guys have said, major record companies are set up to know how to do that. So you might end up adminning it to someone else that has that infrastructure.
I'll just give you guys an example, right? Because it was even news to me. So one artist I was talking to, he's an inherited artist that you very well know. Not heritage, but OG in the game. So he was one of his producers. He's released the tape, and one of his producers, the publishers went out to sign his producer, and then they were signing his producer for probably about $1 million, right? And then they were only offering him 200 grand for his publishing, yeah. So, and 200 grand's not bad money, but he was just no, I'm not gonna do it. And then a sync came in, yeah. A sync came in that they would have signed and taken it. Came in for 250 grand. He just done that and then done it again. He got half it. But you know what I mean? Basically, he said, and so I was like, why is your publishing side? He broke down the story. He goes, I'm never doing it again. Because of that, But that's fortunate. But what is true, it's because he owns it, it's all his, it goes straight to him and he's not losing, So but he's very much in the game, sounds there, you know what I mean? So, but there is options.
Thank you for sharing that example. There's been so many gems dropped. And I think one of the key words is educating yourself on the hows and the whys and the whats. We'll just pass the mic down. Please have your questions ready, as after this last point, we're going to go into our Q&A.
I'm just going to do a shameless plug real quick, right? If you want to get educated and you've got a distributor, the major distributors aren't on board yet, but we can talk, Dumi and the rest of you guys. We've launched an AI platform at AIM, which is called the Associate Tier, which via your distributor, you can join AIM on a free membership. It's like an AIM Lite membership, yeah? It's an AI platform where you can ask any question and it will generate the answer. So you know, what are rights? How do I exploit my masters? How do I exploit my publishing? What is sync? How do I meet a sync agent, et cetera, et cetera. It's an AI platform. There's so much information on there. We spent the last year and some change developing it. It's been in beta for like last 7 months. And now it's like, it's insane. So if you want to get the information is there. You just have to go through your distributor or label services. They'll provide you with a link and you can join the AIM Associate tier. You can get all that information there.
That is very dope. Thank you for sharing. AI, the future, pretty much. We're going to take some questions from the audience now. We're just going to pass the mic out. You can either direct it to all of them, and whoever feels that they've got the most relevant answer can jump in, or you can address it to someone specifically. So if you just want to put your hand up, the mic will be coming round. What's your name, David, and tell us kind of what you do or what you're hoping to do.
Oh, my name is Dabrachi, and I'm still like a upcoming artist and stuff. And hearing everyone talking about owning their masters and sync and stuff like that, how would you go about, as an artist, negotiating the ownership of your masters to, like, whether it's a major label or an indie company?
Negotiating your masters, in terms of fresh. It's yours at the it's always yours. Do you mean to hold on to them? Yeah. Time, yeah. Yeah, what everyone said on the panel is you have to instruct your lawyer, and you have to tell your lawyer how long you want them to retain your master for, and you want it to come back to you, revert back to you. But it's always negotiable, isn't it? So if you're in demand, or if you're with a major labels majority of the time want to own your master. But if you're with an independent, you never ever, with a distributor, you own your master.
Next question. Do you want to pop up over here? We've just got a nice stand set up for you. It's because I don't think the mic might stretch to the back of the room.
Hiya. My name... my name's Lucian. I'm a rapper from Edinburgh. My question was, when trying to negotiate your deal with a major record label, if you're, let's say, a white guy that's a rock artist, or if you're a black guy that's a rapper, how will that come into play? And what do you think the differences would be when trying to negotiate that type of deal?
Oh, I mean, so what the question is, say the question again, please.
All right, if you're,
Does it make a difference if you're a white rock artist?
In terms of race, are you talking about?
Yeah. And also, obviously, the race and genre.
No, I mean, you've got H who's doing rap. You've got the Block Party, black lead singer, doing indie. I don't know. I think it depends on the artist and the act. I think if you're incredible, I think you negotiate what you feel is worth for what you do. I'm not going to say we're blind to colour. We know people are black and white or not and whatnot. But I don't think personally that wouldn't make a difference to me at a major. If you've got a massive following and you demonstrated that you've got incredible music and you know what you're doing.
Do you think it would differ depending on it? Let's say Virgin, they obviously go for a different type of artist. Do you think it would make a difference with them? Not
necessarily. No, Virgin do all types of artists. Virgin do everything from D Block through to Amazons.
Yeah, so like my roster, specifically talking on like Virgin Music, like my specific roster, I work anything from a big Korean K-pop band called NCT 127. I work a Bayesian indie artist that's not even based here. She's in Barbados. I work Rimsey, who's like UK street rapper. Queen Mills, who's like a pop UK rapper. Like it really depends, and I think sometimes at labels as well. I think it'd be good to understand that there's not one A&R most of the time at major labels. They're sometimes split into genres, or some A&Rs have more of, their speciality might be one specific genre. So there's obviously room. It just depends.
So there's no bias.
Yeah.
Can I interject?
Quality of bias, definitely.
Okay. Can I interject? So I'm co-founder of an initiative called Power Up, which is it's an initiative to fight against anti-black racism in the music industry. So there's data around this. and the data says that statistically, black talent receives less financial support than their non-black counterparts at majors and at independents, right? Across the board in the music industry. So that is a thing, right? So we can't argue that, because the data that is there to support that. However, right, and there is a caveat here, you know, if you're black and you're whack, you're not gonna get signed for a lot of money, are you? But if you're black and you're good, then you're gonna be able to negotiate more money. So a big part of it is also what you're doing as an artist, and it's not really, you know, Rich isn't gonna go, oh, you're black, I'm gonna offer you less money. Like, that's not who he is and what he does.
Ben, can I just say as well, this is really important. I think with black music, audience already exists, right? So when the audience already exists, it's a lot easier for people to see how something is going to work. And so in some scenarios, there's rap artists that get paid a lot more for one single deal than they would spend on signing an indie act who don't have a captive audience that they've got to build. So it really depends on each scenario.
But it is important to keep in mind that statistic, just so you know what I mean. That's more about that's overall.
It's because when they've signed, when an artist has signed and an audience already exists, there might be a feeling within a record label that they don't have to spend as much money. Whereas on a mainstream artist or a white artist that they think they have to build an audience with, they might think that they have to spend more money to go and find that audience. Also, it's about the capacity of what they think that audience can do. So if you look at the charts now, you look at Dave, you look at Stormzy or Central C or whatever, these guys are topping the charts on a regular basis. So they're cutting into mainstream white culture in terms of being able to reach everyone. I think there was a time with black music where the amount of money that was spent, and I don't know how recent that data is, Ben, because I think now, and Rich can maybe follow up on this, the amount of money that gets spent on digital campaigns on black artists is substantial.
Yeah, it genuinely is. We chase it down like the top tier artists. We actually do. So yeah, I do agree with that.
Next question.
Hi, I'm Bryce. I'm a beat maker, producer, and I got a question for the whole panel. It was briefly mentioned AI and the future of music. So where do you guys see Web3, so like NFT, the metaverse, blockchain? Kind of how do you see that changing the landscape of the music industry in the next 5-10 years?
It's changing now as we speak, as we talk. It's all going there anyway, isn't it? You know. So, and I feel the distributors are going to play a major part in that, because we can work with acts that own their masters and own their rights. So you can navigate and be a bit more agile in that space. But NFTs for me is again just giving back the ownership to the creators and the artists and you know the producers and everything like that, because again the monopoly of, you could say, Apple or Spotify, you know, the algorithms, you don't always cut through because there's too much music. At least with this, every act that has a fan base, that has a clear core fan base, can sell their music to their fans. The fans, every fan becomes an A&R and a scout and somebody that they can invest in and make money from. So it's not only following your fan, following your an act you like, it's about investing in the act, and it's like a stock. It's like, I predicted this and I'm happy that I predicted this. I'm going to tell my friend and I will make money from me predicting that artist's success. So it's endless. Again, one thing we've all been here and watched is that as much as the music industry is a great business, the music business never helps itself, because sometimes with masters, when you have music that always sells, it's like a tap that keeps on running, right? I don't know if you've gone to Rome and you see the taps, they just run forever. And if a tap runs forever, no one ever thinks that tap's gonna stop running. And so everyone's just like, oh, it's just, look, it's there. Oh, you know what I mean? And that's what happens with music. The gift keeps on giving for us, yeah? And so we never feel, oh, the consumers need a different thing. So Apple will come, and then Apple's a tech company and revolutionize the music game, and Spotify will come and revolutionize the music game. And now Web3 is going to come and revolutionize. But one thing is, music's always there. So we always will have a job, because people love music. And so, you know what I mean? So what I'm basically saying, you're there. If you're there, stay there and keep on doing it, because people are going to come to you.
I'm
anyway.
going to say two things on it. Number one, I mentioned the platform before. June the 8th, we have a conference called Future Independence. There's a lot of seminars and masterclasses about NFTs and Web3s. So make sure you join that. It's free, it's online, so you can watch that in your bedroom or whatever.
And I should actually say something. I'm consulting. I'm doing a bit of like work for a company called Token Tracks. They're actually going to be one of the leaders in like music NFTs. They want to be like the Apple of NFT, so in music. So yeah, check them out. They have a coin.
What was that called again?
They're called Token Tracks. Token Tracks, as in tracks, TRAXX, tracks, but token tracks.
And the other thing I'll say is, like, at AIM, I have so many different meetings about where Web3 is going, where NFTs are going, and if I'm honest, it hurts my head. I can't tell you, I don't understand it enough. But what I will say is this: what I get from every single one of those meetings is, if you don't have community, it doesn't mean anything anyway. Yeah. So where everyone's kind of going, I got to sell an NFT. If you've got no one to sell it to, it doesn't mean anything. So regardless, you have to go back to basics and build your community before you get into the NFT space.
But there is a community. The good thing is that the NFT space, there is a community already living within the Web3. Like, they're there.
But what I'll say to that though, D, and what I've learned speaking to these guys is,
no, they don't want you to. You have to be authentic.
Yeah,
in that
I was going to
space.
say you have to be really authentic in that space and collaborate with people that exist and live in that space, so that it becomes an authentic offering.
Yeah, 100. Yeah. That is a fact.
And can you quickly give us your best example of what an NFT is? I know you like using examples. Jerome, have you got a real world example for those who might not know what an NFT is?
Well, an NFT is a non-tangible token, non-fungible token. Sorry. And basically, what's a great example of an NFT? Digital art collaborations, music collaboration. It's exclusivity. You're buying into.
I'll give you an example. It's like if I paint a picture, right, and today, and I sell the picture to you, and I get 100 quid for it. That's it. That's my 100 quid. You might go off and you might sell it for 500 grand, right? But all I've got from that, as the guy that made that, is 100 quid, and you've gone and made loads of dough, right? Hold on. I'm saying me as a painter, as a guy that's just painted something, you've walked in the room, you said, I'll give you 100 quid for that. All right, mate. You now go off, you own that, right? You've gone off, you sell my painting that I painted for 500 grand. All I got from that is 100 quid. I don't even know you sold it, right? An NFT basically means that when you resell that, I get paid a percentage of what it is you sold that for. So now you sold it for 500 grand. I get a percentage of that sale.
It's not guaranteed, by the way.
Well, yeah, as long as you've negotiated it and you've got all the paperwork, and that's what the non-fungible token is for.
Thank you. I think we've got 2 more questions, but we have got to answer them really quickly, panelists.
Hi, my name is Anna Marie. I'm not a musician. I'm a presenter. But I want to have a question for the A&Rs. I've been in the music industry for a number of years, and people approach me all the time for my expertise and like advice. So I've recently started working with a new Afrobeats artist just to develop him a little bit. But of course, I don't have any qualifications as an A&R. So what would your advice be? Yeah, I don't think there's any course that you can do, but you know, what makes a good A&R? Like, what kind of skills that I need to help develop him on his journey?
I'll just say one thing: passion.
Yeah, I back that. Passion, belief, and a really good work ethic of like pushing through the problems. I think on the A&R side, if you've got an artist that you really, really love, I think you've just got to sort of push them to be the best version of themselves, whether that's be the songs, whether that's be how they interact on their social media and whatnot. But I think ultimately it's about encouraging them, working with them to work smartly and to make sure whatever they're delivering, it's the best possible version of.
Hi everyone, my name is Giorgio Tarantino. I'm an artist, singer, songwriter, performer. My question for you is, obviously we spoke about DIY, independent, and major. I understood that obviously we're all, in this moment right now, we can all be DIY artists, and that's how we start. And the pivoting point is, at some point you either have to decide you want to be with a major, or you want to be with an independent label, if you want to be with one. If the case is you want to be with one because you think that you need the team, you think that you need the connections, you need that world. We spoke about data numbers, of course. What are the numbers that you guys want to see on a major spectrum or independent spectrum, if there are, when artists are coming to you with the idea of being signed, or if you want to sign someone, what are those aspects? Thank you.
It varies and it's constantly changing. And we have people that we employ that are literally full-time data analysts. We have like a young team of kids that are on TikTok that are monitoring all sort of parts of data you could think of. We've got there's a thing around sort of between 1,500 and 2,000 creations a day on TikTok is a really strong indicator as to whether a song's going to go, which is quite a substantial number. But whenever we see something between 15 to 2,000, we'll have a flag. Everyone will get an email, and we'll all be like, okay, we need to dive in and find out what the hell's going on, sort of thing. As one of the metrics that help. So that's something that you can take away.
And the metrics should cross platforms as well, because sometimes there's things that are big on TikTok and people get signed off for those things, but people normally want to see that that's translating into things like streams and social media and all of the rest of it. So there should be a trickle effect across the whole thing when it's really connecting.
Thank you.
Oh, that was our last question. We've got more performances to wrap up with. Really sorry about that. Can you please give it up for our panellists? They've been amazing. And can you all quickly give a shameless plug of your socials if you're active on there, or the brand that you work with, work for, own, just so people can keep up with you on the socials?
I'm not on social media. I'm joking. I am. It's what is it? I don't even know it. Rich Castillo 1. Yeah, shit. Rich Castillo 1 on Insta.
Mine is Dumi Oburota, and then you could follow the label to Disturb in London.
Yep. Ours is two-tone, so number 2, TONE_N.
My Instagram is Hanaa Cali, HANAACALI, like Cali, California. And do reach out. Like, I'm always talking to independent acts, managers. Like, I'm there. Just hit me up on socials.
So it's Hidden Courage. So yeah, check it out. I do marketing services for new artists, digital marketing service for new artists.
Everyone, you can find me on Instagram at AbiJenae. That's ABIJENAE, just in case you need to know the spelling. And yeah, feel free to get in touch.
Mine is Billionaire Ben across all platforms, and also you can look at aim_insta_UK, and you can look at Unstoppable Music Group.
And now I'm going to be handing back to DJ Longers. We've still got another performance to go.
And congratulations, her. She's been amazing.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Big her up, big her up, big her up.
Thank you.